Have you ever found yourself listening to two totally different explanations for everything and wondered, how do you even begin to decide which one is better? Today, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. We're going to use one of the sharpest tools in philosophy to look at simplicity, what it means for something to exist, and how all of that might just point us toward God.
Right, so what's the secret sauce? What makes one idea more convincing than another? When you're talking about the whole universe, is it just about what feels right? Or is there a more logical, more solid way to figure things out? That is the big question we are going to tackle today.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about a famous thinking tool called the razor's edge. Then, we're going to apply it to a worldview called naturalism and literally count its core assumptions. After that, we'll see how theism stacks up in comparison. And don't worry, we're absolutely going to tackle the biggest objection head-on before we wrap up with why any of this actually matters in our daily lives. Okay, section 1, the razor's edge. Now, this isn't about, being harsh or just cutting ideas down. It's about having a principle that helps us slice through the noise and the complexity to find what's most likely to be true. It's all about clear thinking.
And here it is, the principle of simplicity. You've probably heard of it as Occam's razor. Now, the key thing to get right here is that simple doesn't mean easiest to understand. Not at all. It's about which theory is the most intellectually frugal. Which idea forces us to invent the fewest new, unproven pieces to make the puzzle fit? That's the one we should probably lean towards.
All right, so we've got our razor sharpened. Let's put it to work. First up to the test, a purely naturalistic worldview. The idea that the physical world, matter, and energy is the whole shebang. There's nothing else. See, if you're going to explain how we got from no universe, no life, no consciousness, to, us, without a creator, you have to make some pretty gigantic leaps of faith. And each one of those leaps is an assumption. It's an unproven idea that has, let's call it, an ontological cost. It's like adding another IOU to your intellectual tab. So let's start counting. Assumption number 1, the universe popped into existence from nothing. But wait a second, what do we even mean by nothing? As our source material points out, a lot of naturalistic explanations either have to get clever and redefine nothing as some kind of pre-existing quantum foam, or they just can't explain how you get literally everything from nothing. All right, now for assumption number 2, abiogenesis. That's the idea that life just happened, spontaneously emerging from non-living chemicals. This isn't just a small step, folks. This is a leap across a canyon of mind-boggling improbability. And just to give you a sense of the scale of that canyon, check this out. I mean, just look at that number. 1 in 10 to the power of 164. The sources we're looking at cite research showing these are the odds of just one functional protein forming by random chance. To give you some perspective, scientists estimate there are only about 10 to the 80th power atoms in the entire known universe. So the odds here are, to put it mildly, not great. Okay, on to assumption number 3, the origin of the information that makes life possible. I'm talking about DNA. DNA isn't just a glob of chemicals. It's a code. It's complex, specified information, like a book or a piece of software. And here's the kicker. In all of our human experience, information, a code, only ever comes from a mind, not from random, chaotic processes. And that brings us to assumption number 4. Now, to get around those astronomical odds we just saw, a lot of thinkers propose a multiverse, basically an infinite number of universes. The thinking goes, if you have infinite lottery tickets, you're bound to win eventually, right? But do you see what just happened? To explain our one universe that we can see and test, we had to invent an infinite number of universes that we can never see or test. That's about as far from Occam's razor as you can get. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the one side, you've got this growing stack of huge, unproven assumptions you have to make for naturalism to work. And on the other side, you have one foundational assumption. So, let's flip the coin. Let's take our razor and apply it to the theistic worldview. Is it really a simpler foundation for reality? First things first, we have to get our definition straight. And I love this one from the philosopher Roy Clauser. The divine isn't just some super being in the sky. It is the one and only thing that can exist all on its own, without depending on anything else for its existence. It's the ultimate reality, the ground of all being. And that idea leads to a very simple, logical argument. Let's walk through it. 1. Science and philosophy agree the universe had a beginning. 2. This is just basic logic.
Things that begin to exist have a cause. You can't get something from nothing. So, 3, the universe must have a cause that is itself uncaused. A cause that exists outside of time and space. A first cause. And this quote just nails it. The place this logic takes us isn't just to another physical reaction, it leads us to a beginner who exists beyond all the physical stuff. In other words, a transcendent mind. And here's why this matters so much. This one single idea, a transcendent, intelligent creator, doesn't just explain why the universe started. It also gives us a direct and sufficient reason for the fine-tuning of the cosmos, the origin of life, and that complex code we find in DNA. It neatly answers all the problems that naturalism had to keep inventing new assumptions for.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. There is a huge objection that comes up right about now, and it's a really important one. We have to face it head on.
The question goes something like this. Okay, but who created God? Or to put it another way, you're saying simplicity is best, but then you propose an all-knowing, all-powerful, infinite mind. Isn't that the most complex thing ever? And you know what? That is a fantastic and totally fair question. And the answer comes down to this absolutely crucial distinction. We have to separate a simple thing from a simple explanation. Think about Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. The equation itself is incredibly simple, right? But what it describes, the fundamental nature of reality, is almost unthinkably complex. Occam's razor loves the simple equation, the simple explanation. In the same way, proposing one single ultimate mind as the uncaused cause is a vastly simpler explanation than proposing a whole chain of separate assumptions, a universe from nothing, life from non-life, and an infinite number of other universes to make the math work. One cause is simpler than many. So, why does any of this matter? Why have we spent all this time talking about a philosophical razor? Because the starting point you choose for your worldview, well, it changes absolutely everything that comes after it. I mean that your ultimate foundation affects everything. It's the very basis for why you can trust reason and logic in the first place. It determines whether you can have confidence in real objective truth and morality, or if everything just becomes a matter of opinion. And at the end of the day, it's what gives you a framework for understanding if there's any meaning or purpose to your life at all. So, to bring it all home, when we apply this principle of simplicity, this razor, with intellectual honesty, the conclusion seems pretty clear. Theism, with its single, powerful, all-encompassing explanation, provides a more coherent and, frankly, a more intellectually economical foundation for the world we see around us. So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Which of these foundations provides a better, more coherent home for the things we all take for granted? For truth itself, for our ability to reason, and for that deep, nagging sense that we actually have a place in this cosmos? That's a question worth taking seriously. Thanks for thinking it through with me.